Amazing. Hello, everyone. We are joined today in this episode again by the lovely Laura Bruce and Jackie Jones. Laura is from the amazing Embody Loving You, and Jackie Jones is BioResonate. And we are talking today about a topic that means a lot to us because, as it will mean a lot to you, it is an area that is really, really hard to kind of overcome in your own healing journey. And it's something that we've all three of us have been through ourselves. And we are talking about forgiveness. And that actually, when we can really break down this element of the healing aspect of forgiveness, then we can really start making leaps with our progress moving forward. So, ladies, take the floor, forgiveness.
That's a difficult one, isn't it? I think it's something that everybody bands about as saying you should do and you should forgive so you can move on. Not the easiest thing in the world to do, is it?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, I remember I actually did an incredible workshop with a lovely woman about a year and a half ago, and we spoke about exactly that, being in that place of, well, I don't want to forgive, I don't want to, um, and the fact that you do feel this pressure that you feel like you should,
Yeah.
but ultimately, deep down inside, you know it's good for you. But there is a lot of emotion to unpack with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm going to forget who actually said it. I think it's a Buddhist thing or something, holding on to the anger and all the emotions that you hold around not being able to forgive, holding on to all of that is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. It's you that's actually suffering from it. They've probably moved on. And that's the hardest part of actually being able to go, this is affecting me.
Mm.
It's actually affecting me. So what am I going to do about it?
And I think for me, I don't know about you, but when you think of forgiveness, it's always about an action of you forgiving somebody else.
Mm.
You don't actually really think about it as forgiving you. And then I find that really hard to equate. I don't look at it as forgiving me. I look at it as me letting go.
Mm.
And that's really hard. I think because people say to you about forgiving whatever that is that somebody's done that they might not even know that they've done. Yeah. Okay. But you might not necessarily want to forgive them for that. So how do you equate the two? Because I'm finding that really hard. So I'm going to ask you to.
Yeah, I hear that because the element of forgiving yourself, when we get to that stage, you are really taking responsibility for your own actions, thoughts, and behaviors. And that we do really need to remember that in any and every situation that causes pain, it takes two to tango. Yes, somebody really did hurt you, but you played a part in that relationship, and the stories that you identified with during that pain, that you've held on to, that you've really struggled to let go of, you've brought into your future and your future relationships and your future friendships, and it's still with you. And I remember when I was going through this really hard phase of forgiving someone that was causing me so much pain, it was all I was talking about. It was how I identified myself. It was, I'm the single mum who's been to family court. Like, that was how I would introduce myself to people in conversations. Oh, have you been through that? Because you bring your pain with you, because I hadn't gone through those different processes of forgiveness. And when I think about self forgiveness, it's when I finally got to that place where I could say, I'm sorry I put you through that, Sam. Like, I'm sorry that I held on to that and allowed it to cloud who in fact you actually are. And when I could actually take that radical responsibility and say sorry to myself, then I could look at who am I? What do I love? What is my story now? Because I don't want to have that as my story moving forward. So there was that part of self-forgiveness. But that you have to get to that place. You don't start there.
To recognize that that story has become your dominant story. This is me. This is my dominant story of who I am, and all those other beautiful layers of your story are sitting underneath, covered by that. And until you heal and look at that dominant story, those other ones can't start bubbling up, can't start showing themselves. You can't like broaden out into all of who you are. And I think it can be energetic as well. Like you're carrying that energy of not just the anger, but it has like an energy of I've been victimized. And that story then pushes down everything else. But when you heal that part of it, like you say, letting, like, genuinely addressing each of the emotions, taking them out separately and holding them and addressing them, that's when you can set yourself free of that victim story, that everything else can then start flowing out and you see all of who you are, not just that one big story of this is what happened to me. That's setting yourself free.
That's a really beautiful explanation.
Thank you.
Yeah, of opening that layer and allowing everything to bubble up. And
yeah, I know that, and also that's something that I have had, that's been part of my own healing journey, to do that. And also to, like you said, Sam, about you, both of the people involved have got their energies, both of those people have got their own story, so they've brought their story to whatever interaction took place as well. So being able to find their story and allow that that was theirs, it doesn't need to be part of you. Like one of the things that I think of, so for me, a lot of stuff always goes back to the childhood. And I had a situation where someone was behaving really, sorry, this is disgusting, but they were behaving really gross. They were on the climbing frame and they would do a big hoik and spit out filthy spit down on people, not just me, but spit down on people. And that stayed with me as like anger. How can you behave in that way? It's disgusting. It's horrible. It's obscene. I found out many, many, many years later that child was living in a home where there was DV. And I bet he saw that. That's why he was doing it. And he was fearful at home. He was humble and fearful at home. But when he was on top of a big climbing frame with lots of girls below, he could enact the same thing because he felt like the king then. He was on top of everyone else and he was taking back some power because he had none at home. And that was kind of when I realized that, I then came back to my inner self and went, you know, you can give him back the tragedy of his story. It doesn't need to affect you and how you felt anymore. And that was liberating.
Completely liberating, because when you have that first of all, we talked about the identity attachment to the dominant story, and then you have the missing pieces of information.
Yeah.
We don't know actually really the ins and outs of everybody else, yet we will create an assumption and then attach pain onto that through what we think and how we perceive that to be a reflection on us. And there are missing pieces of information to that. And as you say about energy, it ripples through your life. It ripples through you, how you behave. And when we can break down those parts of forgiveness, we can actually see where we're at. So we need to be okay with where we're at. So I've always, since learning this, and I have to say, I'm not taking credit because this was something I learned with Jay Shetty. He was just, this module of his, when we trained with him, this module of his was amazing because he breaks forgiveness down into 5 key areas. So should we talk about those?
Yeah, it'd be really interesting.
Why it's so helpful is because you can see where you're at so that you have more choice and you have more options. So like you were saying, Jackie, at the very start, you feel this pressure like you should. You should forgive. Well, actually, there's room, there's options there. You just need to figure out what phase you're in. So the first phase, he says, about forgiveness is being completely fixated. So we're attached to the pain. We're finding it really hard to forgive at all, and we're fixated on the issue. So it's coming out in how we're talking to other people, and we're talking about it all the time. It is our dominant story, as you say, Laura. But also at that point, you could feel tempted to want revenge. That's the first level of real pain, is when we're kind of, you block them and you want to talk about them and you want other people to know your truth. When you're in this fighting phase of scare, or you feel scared that other people are talking about you because, say, this person has gone out and lied about you, or, you know, is spreading lies, that there's a smear campaign against you, and you feel really hard that you want to fight to tell your story, you could be stuck in that fixated phase of revenge. And that's called level 1. So level 2 is the neutral phase, where you don't necessarily feel revenge. You accept that this person has done this thing, but you do hold a grudge. Now, and as you say, Jackie, they may not know about it. You said that a minute ago. Like, they may not know about this grudge. That's something that we can keep to ourselves, which is, there are chains.
Yeah.
You know, they're going about their life, they're doing their thing. Those are your chains. And then we move into the next phase, phase 3, which is conditional. Well, I will forgive you if you do something, like say sorry. It can be as simple as, say sorry and I'll forgive you. And this can really show up in relationships when you're fighting with your other half. You're like, if you do these things, if you do this, then I will forgive you. And it is totally okay to be in all these places. If that's where we're at, that's where we're at. And then we have level 4, transformational forgiveness, which is where everybody would love to be, which is when you forgive yourself. You can't forgive this other person. You choose not to. They did something to you. They hurt you. That's okay. You've made that decision. You're not going to forgive them, but you can certainly let go, forgive yourself, apologize to yourself, and find that level of self-forgiveness that helps you move on with your life. That's level 4. And that's usually where a lot of people aspire to be. You want to get to level 4. And then beyond that is unconditional. The 5th stage is when everybody and everything in that story or event, yourself and the other person, you forgive them just because. And as you're saying, Laura, that energy that ripples through, that highest self that we aim for, is this energy that we want to cleanse. We want to cleanse ourselves so that we can show up in the best way in our lives, but also enable them to just figure their own stuff out too.
Yeah.
So how do those levels sit with you guys?
You don't know
I'm
what
thinking,
like that. But it certainly ain't 4 or 5, okay?
That's okay, Jackie, isn't it? If you're not at level 4 or 5, you know, and if you choose not to ever get to those levels with this specific thing, that's okay. That's your choice. But at least you can identify where you're at. why you're feeling that way. And then if you choose or create a little bit more space to maybe in the future, there is room there, rather than thinking it is just black or white. It is just, I either have to forgive or I don't forgive.
And that's probably where I've been for a very long time, because I think of the way some's belief, some of it's probably the way you've grown up. You either do or you don't, type of thing. But for self-preservation, for knowing you have to, for your own self, let go. It's got to change. So I'm at that stage. It's like, but
maybe there are phases when you say self-preservation, like I'm just thinking of, like, as you said, Sam, fight or flight. So at the point when the big tiger is approaching you, yeah, that's not the time to be like, I universally forgive. I absolutely universally forgive. I'm fine. You need to be in the state of like, I'm not having it. I'm out of it. I'm running. You are doing this to me. So you need that level one. But if you stay in the level one, I'm just thinking, I have stayed in level one over things that have happened. I experienced some bullying at work and I stayed at level one for quite some time. And I know the hormonal impact of that, the adrenal impact of that, because your body, when you think, well, we know you're in constant fight or flight, you're constantly being triggered in that way. So anything, it becomes like a PTSD thing, complex PTSD or whatever, that it's constantly triggering any one thing. Someone says something that triggers you back to that. That's another rush of emotions going through you, rush of hormones, neurotransmitters, everything else. That is unhealthy in the longer term. That's how it literally is showing up. I know, Sam, this is like your just field of expertise as well. That's how it literally is taking its poison impact on you. So trying to move to the next stages. What was the second one again? Conditional was the third.
Neutral is when we hold a grudge, but they don't necessarily know about it. So it's our internal chains, as it were, because we might not be fixated on it and we may not wish to take revenge, but we can certainly hold that grudge.
Yeah, and that's still sitting within that fight or flight phase, isn't it? Of like, I'm still there, I'm still there. Yeah, like I'm not even gonna confront you, but I'm still there. I'm still holding it. Yeah. And then the
when I
Oh,
work with clients and we work on boundaries, if we're in that area of grudge, this is where we can really get into trouble with our boundaries, because we feel like, well, those walls will protect us. Like the grudge becomes your wall, which is what you believe it to be, something that is protecting you. So it can kind of feed into your protector parts. And it
but
can
it
get
has a permeability, doesn't it, as well? Because it's a big wall that's like, well, wait a minute, you've got in on that part. Hold on, you've got in on that part. Shoring up constantly to try and keep
if
yourself
that
safe.
grudge becomes your protector part in terms of your boundary setting, then you can end up spending your lifetime just keep pushing people away.
Yeah.
Just to stay safe.
Yeah, absolutely. Your protector part just to stay safe. And it's not about our egos here. I always love to remind people that our ego isn't some egotistical kind of look at me, look at me, look at me, that we all kind of assume, oh, this person, look at her ego, like, she's so confident, ego. It's not. It's just that protector part that wants to keep you safe from further pain.
Yeah.
And depending where you experience that pain, it can be quite young.
And I think, in a way, I suppose it's an older sort of saying you would say, you build up that brick wall around you, don't you? That's your little tower that's just around your little, you, and you're inside and you feel safe. But the damage that does to you, and sometimes you tear that wall down, then you think, oh, I just need to put it back up again.
Well, exactly it, Jackie, like you've just said. This is why I love working on boundaries with women, because you feel like, well, I just need to get rid of the whole wall then. Just like knock it all down. But then like you're naked and you're like, oh fuck, like maybe it's not about knocking down the entire wall. Maybe there are some amazing bricks in that wall. Some really useful bricks in that wall. There is some wisdom there because you learned from that pain. There are some great bricks in that wall, but there are some that are broken. There are some that are just not there. They've fallen out. There's holes, or the cement is falling apart, which is why I always say it's okay to go back and edit and change and review, because it might not be that you either have the wall or you don't have the wall. We just need to repair it.
That's interesting. Yeah, because to me, I suppose when you think of forgiveness, I've always thought, well, that wall that you've built up over those years, you need to just tear down and remove. Not actually just need to maybe take a few bricks out and change a few bits and just repair what's there.
Just like you're doing with your amazing French cottage behind you, you're restoring. Yeah, you are. You're restoring yourself, right?
It's a slow process.
It is a really slow process. I mean, ladies, it's taking me a long time to get to this place. And I think this is really important to mention when we're all coaches in our field. And when we're working with clients, there is no quick fix answer. You may have a program that's worked with me for 6 weeks. You might have a program that's worked with me for 3 months, for 6 months. You have that time together, which is an amazing experience. But then afterwards, when those sessions kind of end, you are pulling that learner plate off and then learning how to apply that shit to yourself in your life. And, this is why I love my membership, because, Laura, you'll know yourself, like when we did coaching, it was like ages ago, and we're still there in our membership together because you need that continued support, because our healing process is everywhere. And the reason why I set that up is because when I finished my coaching and my healing experience, afterwards I just dropped it all and completely felt like a failure because I hadn't implemented these things yet, or I had learned these new things and I'd started putting things in place, but then I wasn't able to do it consistently. And then I attacked myself again and I fell back into that old habit of attacking myself because I couldn't do my journaling every day. And you know how it goes. It takes time. And to move through these whole areas of forgiveness can take years.
And knowing that and being honest about that is so important. Like on any healing journey, like someone who says 12 weeks and you're done, you're not.
The thing is, you've got to be ready to move on to the next stage, haven't you?
Yeah, it's layer upon layer, and healing journeys is the gift that keeps on giving, because every time you go, oh, I've done that, there's a little bit more that comes up and goes, hey, I'm ready to be seen now. I need dealing with this well. Can you help me? And then you can deal with that part and that part. And every time is a fear and then a joy.
Absolutely.
And if you're open with that, you're good with your journey. If you're like, well, how can it be another layer? How can it? You're creating a problem for yourself. Be kind to that fearful part.
There's a big bag of nails. Yeah, there.
Good. You too. What's that? They have Shakti mat. I have a Shakti mat. The bag of nails is good. Lie on the Shakti mat. Feel the pain. Move
I
through
have
it.
a very similar one, but not quite as lethal as a bed of nails. But I do have one.
Oh, it's amazing talking to you both about this topic, because I think there's a lot of real honesty that's missing online. And certainly when you see your feed and you see all these promises that, you know, people will help you because they've packaged it up and they're going for speed,
Yeah,
because people do want to save time and they want to get to that result now. You know, when we're building up a coaching practice, I qualified in coaching back in 2020, it's 2023, and I'm still a beginner. It's you're in it for the long game. And your healing and your empowerment comes when you can see that. Sure, have the amazing experience, get the support to help somebody guide you and perhaps help you see corners that you weren't quite seeing yourself. That shit is powerful and you will never forget that experience. But the entirety of the result that you want, whether it's love, whether it's success in your business, I mean, what is it that your main goal is? The reason why you want to be better in your life? Is it you want just better relationships in your family? You love the people that you're with, but you find that they're triggering you all the time. You know, whatever your goal is, it will take years to get there, but you will get there. And when you do, you never go back, because it's emotional healing. I like to talk about the emotional heart and the logical mind. The logical mind will tell you, you want to run a business, go get a business coach. That makes sense. Go and get someone who can teach you how to do accounting, how to do business, how to do marketing, how to do sales. That's the logical mind. That's going to help me because they were successful and they know how to do this, and that's going to help me sell. But if you can't go live or do a video because you're shit scared of the feedback because you were bullied in school, and you still are in one of those phases of forgiveness and you haven't gone through those layers, you can spend thousands and thousands of pounds of training and still be sat there saying nothing is working, because it's not knowledge, it's not logical, it's you don't need to have any more knowledge. You need to face yourself.
yeah, it's
So
interesting.
true.
I think forgiveness has got so many aspects to it, hasn't it? There's just so much everybody needs to unpack on themselves, because it changes. From my experiences, maybe there was a way in which you were, but over the time, so much happens in life that if you don't deal with it, it starts to change the person you are. And therefore, you become something that maybe you don't want to necessarily be, or you want to find that you're never going to be that person you were then because of all the things that have happened. And I think, like you said, like with the bricks, you look and you think, well, actually, that one was beneficial. That helped me to learn this or that about me. But that one, actually, that I'm still holding on to, that's like big row, thick row around there. They need to go. you know. Otherwise, you just, yeah, you allow things to change the person that you should be. If that makes sense.
Or the person you want to be.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, rather than the should, yeah. Yeah, person you want to be. Or, yeah, because sometimes I think you look back in life and you think, I prefer that person that I used to be there. Although I like the knowledge and the information that I have now, but I know that a lot of that journey is affected, so I'm not like that person that maybe was, this is not the right word, but maybe I was more kinder, or maybe I was more loving in that situation, whereas now I'm like, that's the answer. Because you don't want to open that level to allow that because you know it's going to hurt.
I love your honesty today, Jackie, and that is exactly how it feels.
Yeah. And there must be, every one of us must have that, you know, in us, that there's something that we all need to forgive something, because you can't
Definitely.
get
That's the inner, isn't it? The need for inner forgiveness. It's
yeah.
actually then not about what's happened, it's forgiving ourselves for the way that we've become because of that. The constant reactivity, defensiveness, all those difficult things that happen that then keep you awake. Well, this would be mine, keep you awake worrying about, they said that and I said that, was that the right thing to say, etc., etc., and milling over in your head, that you don't have space to learn and think about all the other things that you could be doing, because you're caught up in that energy of reactivity.
And I think,
So being able to forgive for that, I'm sorry that I got into that phase, and be tender with yourself over it. It's self-forgiveness that
yeah.
then sets you free.
And that's interesting, because I think for me, just thinking about it as we started this chapter on forgiveness, that I've always found it hard, in the sense that the word forgiveness to me was always about forgiving somebody else. I never really, until recently, really thought about, actually, no, it applies to us as well. But it didn't make sense. The word didn't make sense to me, forgiveness, for me, because it was about, well, I must have done something wrong. You only forgive if somebody's done something wrong or they've hurt you. But never looked at and turned it inwards. And I think you listing those points today, Sam, really made it clear that it's not the forgiveness that I had in my head. The word is not what I thought it meant. It's the word that we all band around, as it needs a sorry to go with it.
It does, and just as you, I literally just as you said that, it's, you can't create a gorgeous meal with just one ingredient, right? So we can't just see forgiveness as one aspect. With that, and what's missing in that transformational phase of forgiveness, where it is about you, is self-acceptance and compassion. Because in order to elevate and get yourself to stage 4 with transformational forgiveness, where you are forgiving you, we also need to have acceptance and compassion to help us do that.
Yeah, and I think, not necessarily for me, but I think over time, a lot are not compassionate with themselves. See, now I wouldn't have put those two words together, forgiveness with compassion, or self-acceptance. I would not have put them in the vocabulary with it, just always as conjured up, it's somebody's hurt you, so they should apologize, or you've hurt somebody else, so you should be apologizing, but not turning it inward to you. And I wonder how many people, and it'd be interesting to see if we get comments on this, on how many people are feeling exactly that way, that haven't really come to grasp with that. When we talk about forgiveness, that's what we're talking about. It'd be interesting.
And some acts are in the act that has caused it all. It is intolerable. What happened was terrible. So it's not to go, oh, it's all right, that's fine. It's not fine. What happened was terrible, but it's the moving forward and breaking away each different tendril of what happened, so that you are free to move forwards.
Yeah, because I think what you just said is that sometimes, to me, it could be an act or something that is not forgivable. Okay. Yeah, we're talking about like there are things people have been through, serious things. That's not a forgivable act. Yet you have to learn to move forward from that. And that's where I think I found the difficulty, is because it could be something, you know,
that act cannot be changed. It has happened.
So how do you forgive that?
So
and I've always been trying to do it that way, and actually not this way.
And remember, if you look back at those levels, Jackie, there's the reason why there's a level 5. There's a reason why there is unconditional forgiveness beyond the self-forgiveness. This level 4 is called transformational forgiveness for a reason. It is transformational for your life and for how you feel. But even at level 4, that is still all for you and about you and your self-forgiveness. You do not at that stage have to or should forgive, because like you say, the situation may be that you don't forgive that. Unconditional is for both parties, and level 5 unconditional is also if it's appropriate. And it's really important to remember that, because with safety and with domestic violence and abuse and things, or other horrible things that are completely unforgivable, you don't have to get to level 5. And I think sometimes we see everything a little bit too black and white. Like we want to be the A student. So we were trained.
That is just so me. Everything's always, we were funny enough, we were talking about this last night. Everything for me is really, it's black and white. If you say I should be doing this, then that's what I'll be doing. And it's that bit in between, not necessarily do always fine. It's me, it's like, it's either yes or no. But it's not always like that, is it, life?
No, and you don't need to be an A-star student. Right? You know, there's also this pressure to be like, I want to be my highest self. And I want to get to the top of the pyramid. And when I get to the top of the pyramid, then I'm a fucking genius. And like, I have everything I've ever wanted because I'm at the top. And it's like, yeah, well, it's a long way fucking down. And that spiral you can go both ways. It's not about reaching this. What are you trying to reach?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we are trained in an educational system that puts pressure on you to get A's, straight A's, B's. We've got results coming out this summer. I mean, this conversation is so appropriate right now. You will have young minds this week getting C's, D's, or 4s, 5s, whatever the numbers are now. They used to be letters. But they won't get those top highest marks, yet they have got creativity, they're artistic, they've got amazing skills and talents in other areas, they have got emotional intelligence, they've got an amazing social life, they've got elements to their life that are so freaking powerful and useful in the workspace. You know, people who have got empathy get D's and E's, right? Because they have struggled their whole life. And I know that because I was always a D, a C, D. I mean, I ended up with some good grades and I maybe got an A, but like I was always struggling. So because I was in that group, I had compassion, I had to keep going, I had to try again, I had to be resilient, I had to keep turning up to school, even when chewing gum was being put in my hair, you know, and that creates character. You know, do you want to have in your business or employment a whole bunch of people that got A's and they can't speak to each other? I know we're going off topic now.
I know,
clearly,
but it's a really good illustration, isn't it? Yeah. And no, we don't. We want the nice chatty kind, because that's where we have our discussions like we do today, don't we? Yeah, it's a really interesting subject, and I think, you know, it's one of those subjects we could talk for hours and hours on, isn't it? And I've learned so much just talking to you two this morning. I'm just like, uh-oh.
Get out your palette and look at all the beautiful shades of grey.
Yeah.
Between the black and the white, acquaint yourself with one a day. Wow, this one. Oh, this one. There's something called Payne's grey that's always like our clouds back home where I'm from. It's like a really dramatic one. Yeah, so there's loads of shades of grey to find between as you move
50
forward.
apparently. I just couldn't help
50
myself.
Shades of Grey. Oh, dear. I should have picked green because it's over 300. Might take me a while to get to between black and white then.
Oh, well, it's been lovely, ladies. Thank you so much for coming on today and
Brilliant.
talking about what is actually one of the core essential pillars to our healing and empowerment is forgiveness. And thank you so much for being really open and honest and raw with where you're at with it, Jackie. And Laura, again, your wonderful energy and spirit and guidance with that is just beautiful. I love our chat. So thank you so much. And we will come and talk to you again soon about something else, I'm sure. Take care.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.